I want to stay with you, Troy, for this next story, back to your newspaper, The Australian. This story by Cameron Stewart about Joe Biden's storming victory in the South Carolina primaries. What's your take on it? I know you've been writing a lot about Trump lately and about the US elections.
Yeah, look, this was an amazing comeback for Joe Biden in the fourth primary or caucus this year in the Democratic nomination process. You know, he beat Bernie Sanders by 30 percentage points. That is a demolition.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that yet, and he now has more votes and delegates out of any of the candidates, and there are still 7 in the race. So this has given him a huge momentum going into Super Tuesday, where we'll have about a third of the delegates to the Democratic Convention determined. But, you know, you can't count Bernie Sanders out, but it is really sharply becoming a two-horse race, Bernie versus Joe. And look, this is why we all love American politics. It's the greatest show on earth.
It really
because
is.
It continues to surprise us.
Christy, I'm warming up the popcorn because it's hilarious. Bernie versus Joe. Even that is really, that's what we've got here. It's such an extraordinary set of circumstances. You've got, you know, this raging old socialist and in all honesty, I think Joe Biden hasn't inspired anyone with confidence from a sort of physical well-being perspective over the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely not. Look, Gemma, old white men are the only ones who can afford it in America,
Right.
so that's what we get.
That's actually a very funny point when you think about what the Democrats claim to represent, the policy, the party of diversity and being uber woke, but they've really presented the absolute stereotype of stereotypes, Scott, the caricatures of caricatures, really. It's like pick your billionaire, really.
Well, look, South Carolina was a perfect primary for Biden. It had a very big black population in terms of the Democratic voters. Come to Super Tuesday, 14 states plus American Samoa there. Let's not forget Sanders is leading on the polls in California, he's leading in Texas. They're delegate-rich states there. So let's see what happens out of that. But Biden's victory in South Carolina took everyone by surprise. There was an expectation he'd beat Sanders, but probably only by about 10 points. He's beaten him by 30 points. 2-1 in terms of the vote there. An extraordinary result for him. It breathed new light into it. But watch to see who may pull out. Steyer's pulled out, saying he can't win. That will help Biden. Will Klobuchar go all the way to Super Tuesday and then pull out? Buttigieg, will he pull out? That will help the moderates. That will help Biden. Let's see where we go out of Tuesday. But, yep, grab the popcorn, sit back, watch on Wednesday our time to see the greatest show on earth.
Oh, I absolutely can't wait, Troy. I think it is, apart from the entertainment value, it's a fascinating study of politics in 2020, where you've got a bloke who's the president that you wrote about just a couple of weeks ago, in not too glowing terms, I might point out, but he has, and I've got no horse in the race, quite literally, he's done everything he said he was going to do, and he's been the person he has always presented as from the get-go. So why are we still surprised?
Who are you talking about there?
Trump there,
Oh,
sorry.
Trump.
Pardon me.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that's right. But, you know, Trump is not as popular as a lot of people think. I mean, he's losing in these head-to-head polls in battleground states, and his overall approval is in the net negative, and that's below almost any president in the post-war era. So I've always thought that Trump is vulnerable, but I haven't been particularly switched on by the Democratic field. It's a pretty weak field overall, and no one is really inspiring much, and there has not been a huge turnout in some of those early states as well, which shows you there's not a lot of enthusiasm for the Democratic field. But I do think that Donald Trump is a vulnerable prospect for re-election, but whether or not he wins or not depends on who the Democrats choose. I'm not a big fan of Bernie Sanders at all. I think that's hugely risky for the Democrats, and there's no history of ever choosing an extreme ideologue like him to be president. But there's a long way to go, and the Milwaukee Convention in July will be fascinating to watch, because it's quite possible that when everybody shows up there, nobody will have a majority of delegates, and we haven't had a Democratic convention since 1952 like that, where there'll have to be some horse trading and people will have to change their view and support another candidate.